Hi, I'm Kelly Kearney with Starry Constellation Magazine, and with me today, this is a great one, guys. From the villainous character from the new spin-off, The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. That's a very long title. Welcome, Joel De La Fuente. It was so nice talking to you today. I can't wait to talk about this series because it was a fantastic second season.
Oh, Kelly, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you liked it, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, you portrayed the villain this season. Well, season one and season two. So you portrayed the villain. His name is Losang. And were you a fan of the series before you booked the role? Had you watched any of it, or did you just sort of dive into it once you booked it?
Well, I had watched the first season when it came out and just loved it so much. And then I think I ended up traveling quite a bit and was working a lot and sort of didn't get a chance to watch the rest of the series. And then when this opportunity came up, I was so excited to watch to just sit down and watch all of the episodes. But then the showrunner, the amazing David Zabel, said, I really would like you not to watch the series because that's a specific world, and we're sort of your character would know nothing about that world. So he said, if you have any questions about it, or if you want to watch little pockets here or there, but I would much rather you didn't become as conversant in the past world as in the world that we're about to build.
Because it's a completely different vibe. The new spinoff is a completely different world. Not just that it's in France, but Daryl has grown, he's matured, the characters are in a different setting, everything is great about the series. It's certainly cinematic, absolutely cinematic. Um, so let's talk about your character. He's so unique in the universe, honestly, because he was driven by his strong religious beliefs and his commitment to peace rather than the typical bad guy in these universes. They often are driven by desperation, often
Mm-hmm.
violence, but he's had this aversion to violence. He had this peace that he believed in. Do you think because of that, he was a character that was able to possibly find some redemption, and he just lost his way? Because he really did show some empathy towards Sylvie when she passed away, or passed away, she was killed.
Right. The whole what really appealed to me about the role to begin with was the fact that it's very clear that he doesn't think of himself as a bad guy, and
Yeah.
I'm very drawn to characters who are gray as opposed to black or white, and he's definitely a morally ambiguous person. Like I think part of what makes him so dangerous, and I think this is what makes him such an interesting character. Part of what makes him so dangerous is that he believes very strongly that he's right. He believes
Yeah.
very strongly that he's the good guy. And I think maybe for a long time he was a good guy, and that he just makes some bad decisions along the way. And I think that that's a really interesting story to tell, which is how even the best of intentions, one or two bad choices can lead you on a direction that, the next time you pay attention, you're 2 or 3 miles well into bad guy land.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We first met him. He seemed like a stable character, had a center, this peaceful center to him. He was very paternal towards Laurent,
Mm-hmm.
and it was interesting to see that sort of unravel and who he became. Throughout the two seasons in France, Daryl he taught Laurent like, many valuable lessons from fighting to how to sort of socialize with his own peers. Do you think Losang imparted anything meaningful to either Daryl or Laurent?
Well, to me, that's sort of like a minor tragedy of the story is that in slightly different circumstances, I think Losang and Daryl could have had a great relationship, and he could have offered a lot to Laurent because what Losang has to say about faith, I think, is very meaningful. I think that in the you're living in a world where you almost don't have the luxury for faith anymore because it's such a day-to-day struggle for survival. And so the presence of this group of people, the presence of Losang and the l'Union de l'Espoir is so important because by removing themselves from society, they're able to sort of hang on to these vestiges of spirituality and these vestiges of aspiring towards the higher aspects of humanity, even as the rest of the world is falling apart. And I think that's what he has to offer. In the end, he's not able to do that because in the end, they're not able to separate themselves enough from the struggles of humanity to be free of that. In the end, his relationship with Jacinta, who's really arguing more for proof, wins, and that's sort of, once that happens, I think, the group rapidly falls apart.
Yeah. Um, One of the more interesting dynamics was between you and Daryl. The character of Daryl Dixon and Losang are just yin and yang. They're completely different. They are one is a person who believes in peace and maybe using violence as a last straw, and Daryl was more take out the threats now, don't have to deal with them later. And those two butted heads a lot. You had an intense showdown with Norman Reedus' character. What was it like collaborating with him, working on those choreographed fight scenes? Because that one particular scene was fantastic.
Oh, thanks. I was so curious and intrigued about working with Norman and about meeting him, and he just exceeded every expectation that I had. I have a few friends that have worked with him on the original Walking Dead, and I was asking about him, and they all said, "Oh, he is just a remarkable human." And I was so excited to hear that. But the second I met him, it was clear that he's very friendly. He's super supportive of all the other actors. There's a kindness and an ease about him. That's sort of shocking when you consider how famous he is. How he sort of can't walk down the street. He has like a real ability to be present. And to be available, like when he's around you. So I really admired that, and it made for a really fun, interesting working relationship. He's very curious. Having worked on the same role for well over a decade, he's still very interested and curious about growing the character. He was very front-footed, not just as an actor, but as a producer on the show, I think, and not just sort of continuing the story of Daryl, but by having a new show and putting it in a new place, really using that as a vehicle to explore and to push it further, to see what happens when you put somebody in a completely different situation. And I think that it's not just more of the same. Like as you said, the look of the show is completely different. It's set in a different place, but I think Norman is doing really great work as an actor, really allowing himself to obviously maintain the integrity of his role, but also to allow it to change. I think it's just fun to watch him sort of evolve even all these years down the line. And it was really fun to sort of help be a part of that and to help serve that.
Did the two of you work on the choreographing together? Was that done with the fight stunt coordinators? Because I know he is very physical in that role. He's been doing it for so long. He knows how Daryl moves, he knows the weaponry. Did you two have a sort of a rehearsal to that, really get down and knock each other around a little bit?
We did. We had a number of rehearsals. I have to give a tremendous amount of credit to the stunt department, and also to a French Aikido master who, I'm not a martial artist, and I was playing one, right? So the show was really great about hooking me up with an Aikido master named Leo Tamaki, who's from France, and I had the tremendous privilege of getting to work with him extensively while I was in Paris to get myself ready for some of those first sequences. And then afterwards, just being put in the hands of the amazing stunt department there. I mean, they're just, the stunt coordinator and the stunt people were really generous with their time, really fantastic in helping us out. Norman, as you say, has been so involved over the years with this stuff. He's really given his body, like you see, his knee, his shoulder, Norman wears the scars of Daryl over the years. He's definitely been through the ringer, while playing this role. So he knew what worked and what didn't work for him. We would rehearse all of this stuff, and then there were a couple of times where there were injuries that sort of delayed our ability to rehearse.
Yeah.
So in the end, we basically had to sort of rely on the expertise of the departments, our own individual work. And then when we came together, the trust that we had developed as actors together to sort of do it on the day, because, that final battle sequence that we have, it's long and it's pretty intricate, and it was super fun to be a part of it. And it really requires a lot of intricacy, and, you're always half a step away from something pretty dangerous. And so it required us all to sort of really check in with each other. And he's a great partner to have in those circumstances.
You especially because you said you were not familiar with martial arts, so that was new to you. But then you whipped out the staff, and you guys were using
Yeah.
weapons with each other. So were those skills also that Sensei Leo Tamaki, I think his name was, taught you? And because you were really fantastic with those, I would have never thought that you had never picked up that sort of weapon or never had an experience in martial arts before.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. Yeah, that was so much. That was a lot of Leo and time. Like having the show. It's just great to be involved with a show that really where it's really they prioritize certain things and they enable you to they give you the opportunity to try to be your best. Like when you have such a great stunt department, you're sort of covered because they say if you can't if you can't tell the story yourself, there's all these stunt people there to help you tell it. So if you can't tell it, then at the end of the day, there's going to people there who can do it. But David Zabel, the showrunner, and all the amazing producers there, they really trusted me, and they said, we think you can do it. Here's the time. Here are the people to work with. And I mean, for me as an actor, that's just such a great. It's one of the great things about being an actor that you can learn so many new things, be open to new, exciting, scary, terrifying experiences, and to sort of really aspire to become someone that you're not for a while. And that was really fun for me.
And that's like some of those skills you would probably wind up taking on to new projects, something that you feel a little bit more comfortable with now that you've had experience with it, and experts obviously teaching you those skills.
Yeah, I think one of the things that it's important to remember over and over as the years go on is it's we have the gift as actors to honestly embrace not knowing, to go into something and say, I don't know, to begin a process by saying, I have no idea how that works. And if you're really able to sort of, it takes a lot of bravery to do that. But I think if you can start from a place of embracing not knowing, it gives you the opportunity to learn and to grow into something new, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's such a gift to have that opportunity, like, as someone who's been acting for a few decades, it's sort of like, you get to do something new all the time. You get to be an action star this time. You get to be, to learn a lot about, Losang, for example, is someone who was a Buddhist, but then who also becomes part of this group that embraces all of the major world religions. So to find out more, about whatever Buddhism that he would have been a part of, and then to find out, part of the, he walked the Camino Santiago, which is a very Catholic thing, part of
Yeah.
the Catholic faith. And so it's just, you get to learn all of these new things. You get to sort of add all of these pieces, to sort of put together a character. And, Dave has done such a great job of creating all these vivid characters with such unique backgrounds, and using, and using France very specifically. It wasn't just a backdrop. They really studied the culture and the time periods and the production design to come up with something that was very unique for this particular show.
Well, speaking of France and learning, were you fluent in French because you did quite well on the series, or was that something
Oh,
you also had to pick up, train to get ready for?
well, I studied French quite a bit when I was younger. I studied a lot in high school, and for a while, I came up a couple credits short, but I studied French when I was in college. But I never, one of my big regrets was I never went to France to sort of gain fluency,
Hmm.
but I've always loved the language. So getting to live in Paris and getting, again, they sort of pushed me too they gave me more and more French as the season went on. It was really fun for me, to try to incorporate that more into my character. So my French got better, certainly, as the time went on. I've had the opportunity to play a number of characters speaking languages that I
Yes.
don't normally speak. And so it's been, I think, I love it. I think, it's when you can speak another language, just the rhythms of another language really sit differently in your body, and it helps you sort of feel like you're a different person. So,
Yo, yeah, absolutely. Was there a particular scene in the second season that was challenging for you, especially rewarding, that you would look back on the series and say, that was the scene that challenged me, but I loved how it turned out?
oh gosh, I feel like every scene had its own particular challenge that was so exciting. I mean, for me, like in episode one, there's a whole sequence where Losang is fighting And it's really, I'm basically, Joel, the actor, is basically new in the season in front of this crew for the season. And I'm basically asserting myself as a martial artist to people when personally Joel doesn't think of himself as a martial artist, but
Right.
Losang is a master martial artist. So it was a big challenge for me to sort of begin the season by unapologetically stepping forth with all, literally hundreds of people watching you, and beating two or three people supposedly with ease with a bow staff that I didn't know how to use 2 months before,
Right.
and so it just sort of involves suspending your fear and embracing the part of you that says I'm an expert at this. And so that was very terrifying and exciting. And once that day was over, I really felt like I have a chance now to move fully into this part, because Leo, my sensei who was working with me, just did a great job of preparing me for that. And he told me later that people were asking him how long he had been studying with me when they were
Oh,
watching that. And
well,
I just thought that was, that was just crazy,
the
crazy.
student
But
becomes the teacher kind of thing. You probably felt very humbled by that.
super humbled, and also just you're reminded, like, with some good lighting and some good camera angles, you could accomplish anything.
That's so true. Well, season two is in the can. It's over. They're working on season three already. What projects are you working on this coming up? Is there anything we can look out for to catch Joel in?
Well, this has been a really interesting year. I've been traveling all over the place. I went uh, to the desert in New Mexico for a while to work on a comedy, which was really fun. Because normally I'm playing, as I said, these sort of morally ambiguous, dark characters. I got to play a wacky sort of this. I mean, he's supposed to be a villain, but he ends up being sort of a softie and sort of wacky in this independent film called Brewmance that hopefully should be coming out in the next year or so. I'm very excited about that. Um, and then I went to South Korea to work a little bit on a K drama, which was really fun for me because um, I'm a huge fan of Korean music and Korean dramas, and so to get a chance to go over there and to work with some wonderful actors in an amazing industry with some, just brilliant artists was a real treat for me. I'd never been to Korea before, and so it was fun to get to do some scenes with people. Also, with a little bit of languages that I don't normally speak, and also a lot in English. So that show's called Tempest, and should be coming out in about a year or so.
Oh, great. Well, fans will definitely be looking out for that. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Joel. Fans, if you have missed the second season of Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol, I don't know where you've been, but you need to get to AMC Plus right now. Watch Joel De La Fuente in it. It's a fantastic series, and they're gearing up for season three, so you better get those one and two seasons finished.
Callie,
Thank you
it's a
so much.
pleasure. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much today.